Has finished processing, and you can already see, if you zoom in, you can see almost individual grains of sand. So it gives it a much more realistic look than the mesh, just the original mesh model. You can rotate it around and move it. Looks a little more, much more realistic. So one of the things with this new Metashape version, 1.6 and up, is that you can build your mesh model based on either dense cloud, which is what we use, or depth maps, which is what I'm going to show you how to use. And like I mentioned before, kind of one of the biggest reasons is building it from depth maps arguably increases the quality, and it also largely decreases or uses less amount of time to reconstruct. So this is a huge improvement that Agisoft has made. So this was created from the dense cloud. So for a small image set like this, it's kind of neat to see the differences between both, if there are any really significant differences. With larger projects, some people are starting to use depth maps more because it takes considerably less amount of time, and like I also mentioned before, it uses a lot less computer memory, that RAM memory. So some computers that weren't able to build a model from their dense cloud originally, the computer wasn't powerful enough, now it can with the depth maps. So before we build another model, a 3D and texture model from our depth maps, something to understand about Metashape here is when you want to build something again, you want to build another dense cloud or realign photos or something, if you run the process just normal, go to workflow, build mesh, and press go, it's going to erase this one and then build the new one. But maybe you don't want that. For example, we want one 3D model from the dense cloud and one 3D model from the depth maps. So what you can do is just click on it once or twice, I think just once, and right click, and you get some of these options. And it says set as default. So right now this is the default or active 3D model. So whatever else you do that's going to affect the 3D model, it's going to affect this one. So I'm going to click that. And now you notice it goes away. I can click on the dense cloud and it's there. But this 3D model is now italicized. That means it's no longer active. So if I go up into workflow and I do build mesh and I build another 3D model, this one's going to stay there and another one is going to appear below. So that's kind of a nice feature so that we don't have to, right click, duplicate, or copy this entire chunk and have a whole nother chunk just for a new 3D model, and then a whole nother chunk for maybe a new dense cloud or something else. And that also saves you a little bit of space as well, saving all this stuff, all these files. Now when it's italicized, if you double click, it goes back to active, and you see that, and you see here the textured model on top of the mesh. So I'm going to right click, and click set as default. So it's no longer active. And then I'm going to go to workflow and build mesh. And now it's going to ask us again, okay, how do you want to build this mesh? From the sparse cloud, depth maps, or dense cloud? We're going to do depth maps. And so the settings are slightly different. The quality is automatically on medium because that's what our depth maps were built on. Over here on the left is medium quality. So if you change the quality of this, you have to regenerate those depth maps. And so for a smaller project like this, maybe it'll just add another 10, 20, however long it took to build the depth maps process. But for large projects, that can take a lot. So that's something to think about before you generate your dense cloud, or if you want to regenerate your dense cloud. So we'll go ahead and use medium, and you also need to, when you keep it on the same quality as the depth maps, you need to go down here and check reuse depth maps. That's really important. So that way you're saying, I want it on the same quality, and please reuse those ones that I already made. Again, maybe this took hours. Please just save me a few hours and rebuild those. So the quality is medium, and we're reusing the depth maps. Your face count is how many vertex, how many faces you want, and it's just a high, medium, low, or custom, and you can give an actual number. So we'll go ahead and do high on this one. see how long it takes. But if you want to go to medium or low, and again, you could always right click, build another model with different number of faces. Done that plenty of times, so we'll go ahead and leave that as high. Interpolation is just like before, so we're going to go leave enabled as the default. Yes, we do want it to have some color, although we are going to texture it after, but we want it to have some color. And then reuse the depth maps and press OK. And you see that the process bar is already about halfway or so ahead. And that's because that was all just generating the depth maps. So we told it, please reuse those, and it is. And so now it's just building the model on top of those. So go ahead and pause this and come back when you're done. Texture is done. It's on your mesh model now, so you have a textured model, and it looks pretty good. Right here, it's the second one, so we're looking at the one that we just made from the depth maps. Let's go ahead and rotate that around and look at it. It filled. Some of your models you'll be able to really see where it filled in some of the holes. If you have some holes, this one did a pretty good job. It looks pretty good. And so, like I said before, there's two models here. We were able to keep our first model, which was the dense cloud, and then this one, which is from the depth maps. And if you start building more models, or you get along your project workflow and you kind of forget which one's which, or yeah, there's different faces, but was this dense cloud with less faces or more, or was this depth maps, what was it? You can go ahead and double click on it. Now this one, bottom one, is active. That one's inactive, so you're looking at the bottom one. And you can see, okay, this is how I built my depth maps and the reconstruction parameters. Surface type arbitrary, that means it's true 3D. Source data, depth maps. Okay, so this was the one with the depth maps. And then it tells you processing time and all the other settings you chose, which was nice. Double click on the dense cloud one. It might take a minute or two to kind of load. Okay, depth maps is the same because we used, we didn't need depth maps for dense cloud. Okay, reconstruction parameters, arbitrary, yep. Source data, dense cloud. Okay, so this one was the dense cloud. And so this kind of tells you, how long things took, the settings and stuff like that. And the dense cloud here, you can look at the same thing, your tie points, etc. So there you have it. You have just built either your first or another 3D model, all the way from aligning the photos to building your dense cloud to building your 3D model using Agisoft Metashape.